So to break the ice, I considered. Except for the superficial matters, we also had the details of them, and reminding myself of the story she experienced in terms of her treatment, I came up with another question. Did you go astray again, or have you found your way back this time? Believe me, after the first incidents, I had plenty of opportunities to gain overview, and now I feel capable of drawing a map of the entire hospital. So it happened more than once. Perhaps? As I said, they have millions of junctions leading through the wards, and when they tend to perpetually use different ones, what am I supposed to do? Well, the positive referring to the mentioned map is, when you publish that, neither you nor fellow patients can veer off the way in the future. How does that sound? After subsequently a second laughter, she commented, "Really, Aaron? Did you eat a clown for breakfast?" "No, only worksheets from school." "Yeah, sorry, that one was too much." "Ain't a thing, let it all out." As a result, we calmed ourselves a little bit before continuing with a more serious behavior. That meant that a serious question from her resulted in an equally serious response from my side. And for it was related to school, a very present matter, we also had plenty to talk about. I reported everything about my exams, from English over biology to computer science, including theoretical and practical facts. Overall, our conversation transmuted mainly into a monologue, with me only speaking and her listening. But I didn't have the feeling that it was wrong, so I continued until my speech found its end. When I concluded with the enumeration in terms of the other subjects looming on the horizon though, she became verbal again, but at the same time seemed to have lapsed into thoughts. So she wondered, is that how it is when you're normal? An indeed complicated question as I evaluated. On one side very easy and answered with yes, but on the other it implied to call her abnormal, what I wanted to avoid at any cost, with the background at all times present in my mind. Hence I refused to reply with a direct answer, but continued with a question instead. After all, I wanted to express empathy, neither grief nor too much pity, and so I approached softly. "Where have you been before things changed?" "Well, my past was not at all extraordinary. I went to grammar school like you and intended on getting the Abitur and then to look for a job and a place to settle. That's how it's done normally and how I would have done it in consensus with the people surrounding me. But then the from you mentioned change shattered all that at once. Maintaining the repetitive learning was, like many other things, not possible anymore. First and foremost, due to the many appointments with doctors and specialists. And I'm not even talking about my personal condition, because that was something no one could share or help me with. Additionally to the tangible matters like school, where I could relocate exams onto another date, or the appointments to which my parents agreed on driving me, I had to wage my own war. Imagine you know you have something inside of you that is definitely not a trifle, as it potentially could turn out to be fatal. The uncertainty, I tell you, is 1,000 times more destructive than its counterpart. When you have the certainty regarding such a disease, you have to deal with it, and you will learn the how-to. That's it. There is no going back. But when you're levitating between hoping and praying, your body and mind alike get fractured every time they tear you onto one side. Referring to the effective diagnosis itself, at the latest then, I had to abort everything. My plans, my dreams, and hopes. I never would have been able anyway to attend to the Abitur exams like that, because I was just out of my mind. And concentration? Nope. But yeah, this is basically me, my normal abnormal life so far. When she spoke out her last word, she exhaled deeply, which I interpreted somehow as a sob in disguise. Subsequently, I heavily regretted talking to her on the phone, as I had no means at all to alleviate her sorrow. When I had been next to her physically, I would have embraced her as tight as I could, just to show her my presence. But now I was just another voice, like those who said that everything was going to be fine and that it was only a hurdle to overcome. I didn't know that for sure, but the indifference itself was already shown by those who were prejudiced against her, only because she had something inside of her which wasn't even her fault. That the divergence of society's expectations results in misconceptions or even offenses, is nothing new. Be it a brain tumor or 20 kilos overweight, that makes you imperfect in the eyes of those. That shows simply how sick and static the greater percentage of the contemporary society is. They link perfection with someone who reaches the picture of the average the most. Everyone representing the norm, and therefore society itself, is an ally. Who does not is the enemy. But that principle of mass conformity is only a delusional stereotype and nothing more, whereas true perfection is achieved through imperfection. The very things that make you different, the things no one else puts value on, those make you you, and therefore perfect just the way you are. Regarding Chloe, I found it therefore remarkable that she always stood up and ultimately seemed to make the best out of the worst, as I saw by the fact that she opened herself up towards me. Even though the scars were still gaping, they were at least sealed. Such a shame that I couldn't lay my hands on them, kiss them, and say that everything was going to be fine. Not based on indifference or satisfaction of conscience, but togetherness. Basically the very thing that penetrates every wall, every wound. But it shows simultaneously that although cruelty sometimes may be the dominant force measured by quantity, the things connecting people out of quality will always compete with those separating them. However, when she finished, I ad hoc had no appropriate response for her, while I wanted to avoid a typical mainstream answer at all cost. Correspondingly, I simply chose silence, because words were not helpful either way. What I wanted to say could not be expressed with them, so my first reaction after the calm was the question whether or not she needed me. Need in the sense of being close. Chloe, if you want I can come over, that makes talking a little bit easier. Measured by the tone of her voice throughout her response, I heard at least that she understood my intention and therefore did not take it as a confirmation of weakness, the so-called pity. I didn't assess her as weak, the exact opposite instead. And referring to that, I wanted to emphasize that we were stronger together. Stronger than she was alone, but not less weak than she was before. Aaron, I truly appreciate that. But I told you recently that I'm feeling way better compared to then. It's just a neutral clarification of my past towards you, nothing more. The very past I have concluded with for the most part. Really, don't worry. Initially I struggled to fully believe her, but ultimately was convinced by her chuckle, with which she loosened the seriousness and tension alike. Although I couldn't see it through the phone, I had the feeling that it was a sincere laugh, so I didn't make any further approaches. Consecutively, she changed topics and came to our last, but simultaneously most pleasant topic. After all, remember that you still owe me something, Aaron. I tried hard to remember what she was alluding to, but since I had no clue at all, I only commanded that with, "Can you give me a hint?" I'm referring to exactly two things. One deals with getting the most out of the least, and the second one lies in your jeans. In my jeans? I'm not wearing... Wow. Genes, in the sense of genetics, I remember. Bingo. And the other one? Can you repeat the hint again? She responded with ironical laughter, but ultimately showed herself acquiescent. I don't know whether this is right or wrong, but maybe it helps you anyway. The tip is... Uno más. Uno más. One more. Oh, uno. I got it. Don't mention it any further, just leave it to me. I'm going to prepare something neat until Monday, I promise. Fair enough. I'm excited about what it will be, so don't disappoint me. On the other side, you have always exceeded my expectations so far, so do whatever you want, because it will be great anyway. So yeah, have you something left on your mind, or should we continue tomorrow or Monday? With regard to the time that was shown on the display of my phone, I agreed with her and concluded. I think we can keep that kind of contact spontaneous, can't we? Whenever someone of us wants to call, we can call. But from my side, I'm very excited about Monday. Until then, that's it I guess, unless you have something left on your agenda. Not really, Aaron. Then see you or hear you, whatever occurs first. Alright, then tomorrow or Monday. I mean, goodbye and have fun with whatever you're doing. You too, Chloe. Bye, Aaron. After I reciprocated, I waited until she was finished with her cute chuckle before I pressed the hang up button. When I did, I saw the time throughout which we have been talking to each other, and it truly shocked me, but also made me feel successful and enriched. 46 minutes and 23 seconds. Thank God we have flat rates, I whispered to the ceiling. However, with a glowing effervescent feeling, I laid my phone aside to go into the kitchen for preparing myself some food. I was so occupied with several things that I completely forgot to eat. And when I looked at the clock, I had to consider what meal it was going to be. Lunch or already dinner. At 4:30 p.m. you could term it both. But last but not least, I decided on calling it a snack, just to come to a conclusion as fast as possible. My view was namely directed on the next day, because I wanted to get over and done with it quickly in order to see Chloe again. In the evening, I therefore thought about doing something else for school, because whatever was finished was one matter less separating Chloe and me. And since I had nothing important left on that evening anyway, only the justification towards my parents, referring to the friend I had been talking to, of course, due to the abitur, I overcame myself to yet prepare the first two subjects sufficiently. In fact, I mastered them, just like they were going to take place on the next day. But once more, done is done, even though I had to carry the consequences by letting myself fall into the bed, severely exhausted. Though I had not much energy left after the packed yet pleasant day, I intended on terminating it just in the same manner. I took my phone, searched for the specific contact, and started typing. Good night, sleep well, and sweet dreams. Angle bracket 3. Then I pressed onto send and waited, while hoping that she was still up. But since it had gotten very late already, I soon laid my phone aside, only to hear it vibrating just in the moment I extinguished the lights. In the dark, I looked at the illuminating phone and sunk into the bed with a huge smile, representing the thought, what a perfect day.